What's good? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build your own custom titles for the edit page. We're going to utilize a 3D text as well as a text plus node in Davinci Resolve. Not going to do too many crazy animations or anything like that. We're going to keep it real simple. So to start, I'm going to the effects panel and go to effects and grab a fusion composition. I'm gonna leave it the default, which is 5 seconds, and I'm gonna close my effects panel. Now I'm going to fusion. I'm using a vertical layout, so if you want to follow along with me, you can go to workspace, layout presets, fusion presets, and I'm using a mid-flow vertical. It basically places the two displayers on top of one another. I'm gonna readjust the workspace and make this a little bit smaller. Then I'm gonna move my media out down here. Then I'm gonna grab a background node. We're gonna use it to set the size of the composition. I'm gonna take the output of it and connect it to the media out. In the inspector tab, I'm gonna turn down the alpha channel to 0. Now I need to grab my 3D tools. So go over to the top here. This is 3D text. Then I'm gonna select 3D text and grab a 3D merge and a 3D render. So now I'm gonna take the output of this renderer node and connect it to the background node. It's gonna create a merge. Now I go through and set up my text. So I'm gonna click on the text node, go over to the dialog box and just type in, I'm just typing Godsend. Then I'm gonna select my font. The font I'm gonna use is called Modern Goth. Then I'm gonna go over to the viewer. I'm gonna click in it. Hit Control or Command G if you're on Mac. It's gonna bring up your safety guidelines. So holding Control and scrolling with my mouse wheel, I basically want to keep everything for the most part within this little box here. And I want my text to be center. To go back to the inspector tab, I'm gonna click on the transform tab and using the offset X and Y, I'm gonna move this down on the Y axis. It's about right there. Now I'm gonna click back on the text tab. I'm gonna go down to the bottom here where you see extrusion. Hit the drop down and then I'm gonna turn up the extrusion depth. You can't really see it right now, so I'm gonna click on the merge 3D and hit 1 on the keyboard. It's gonna bring it in the first viewer. Then right clicking and holding the mouse wheel, I can move around in 3D space. To get a more accurate look at our 3D text, we need to turn on lighting and shadow. So I'm gonna go over to the render node and I'm gonna activate lighting and shadow. Everything's gonna go dark. I'm gonna go back to my text node. Let me control space. So now I'm typing in light and I'm gonna grab the ambient light. I'm gonna take the output of the ambient light and connect it to my merge 3D. So then I'm gonna go back to my text, go back down to the extrusion. I'm gonna turn up the bevel width just a little bit and then turn up the bevel depth. We're gonna bring in some more light so we can get a better look at it. So I'm gonna click on my 3D text, hit Control and space, and type in light once again. This time I'm gonna get a point light. Now you can see the point light has illuminated the back of my text. And by default, it created another merge. I'm actually gonna delete that merge and take the output of that and connect it directly to the 3D text. Then I'm gonna click on that spotlight, the point light, I'm sorry. And go to transform, and then just mess around with it to get the look that I'm wanting. I'm actually moving on Z space to bring it to the front, and then holding Control and moving in. See, got the ridges, edges. You can customize that if you want to. So I'm going to the 3D text. You can smooth out the angles. So now you see it's not as rigid. I can continue to customize the bevel depth. The width you don't want to get too big because then it looks all kind of crazy. They don't look too bad, but now it basically look like a big marshmallow. I'm gonna turn the extrusion depth down just a little bit. I'm gonna leave it right there for now, but you can continue to mess with it to get further customization. Now I'm gonna click on this point light. I actually want to bring it down on the Y axis. Still in the merge 3D, you can see this represents the light. Bring it down on the Y axis. It's gonna create a little more shadow and depth to it. I'm gonna grab another point light. You can add as many lights as you want to. Once again, create another merge. I'm gonna delete that merge and just connect it directly to this yellow input. Now I'm gonna go back to the transform of the second point light and move it up on the Y axis. Then I'm actually moving in on the Z axis. And so there's no right and wrong to this. You just basically want to move around, customize it to your liking. Now to customize the color of the text, I'm gonna click on 3D text, and then you can go into shaders, and then you can just select a color here. Right now it uses one material, so if I change this to say red, it just changes everything to red. And the spectral color is more or less like the highlights. So if I go in here and select, let's say purple, it's gonna give me like more or less kind of a purplish highlight. But we're gonna be creating custom controls for the edit page, and I find it a lot easier just to use a background node. And then I'm gonna go over here and uncheck use one material. So now what this is gonna do is separate the color, which is basically the front of the text more or less, from the bevel, which is more or less the depth of the text you see here in this little corner here. Right now the material is set to solid. I'm gonna select image on both the material and the bevel. And if you look at the 3D text, now it has these two new inputs. I'm gonna grab a background node. I'm gonna right click it and connect it to the 3D text. When you right click and connect to a node, it brings up this little menu. This is gonna be my color image. So if you want to, you can. You don't necessarily have to, but I'm gonna click on this background node, hit F2 and type in color. And then I grab a secondary background node, right click and connect it to the 3D text, and that's gonna be bevel. So now going back to color, I'm gonna go into the inspector tab and I'm gonna change from solid to gradient. You don't necessarily have to, but I'm gonna create a gradient pattern, and I'm gonna leave the black as it is, and I'm gonna click on this layer here and change the white one to red. I'm just gonna drop down the green and the blue. Now it's gonna give me a black and red gradient pattern. Then if I wanna customize that, this little green line here represents the gradient pattern. So if I wanna change it around, so if I want to, I can bring it in like so, or I can just grab the on-screen controls and create a unique gradient pattern. All this will be selectable from the edit page. So now going back to the bevel, I'm gonna leave it as black, or you can change to whatever color you want to. So now we're gonna create an animated light. So I'm gonna click on the merge 3D, hit control and space and type in light. And I'm gonna grab another point light. This one here we're gonna animate. So I'm gonna select it and go into the perspective tab, click on transform. And then if you move it on the X-axis, it just basically go across the text. I think I'm gonna do a shine going across the text. I'm gonna reset this Y back to 0. Then I'm gonna right click on the X, modify width, and then atom curves. I'm going to the modifiers. Within the modifier tab, I'm gonna change source from transition to duration, and then select easing, and then I'm gonna select expo for both. And then I want to, utilizing the merge 3D in the first viewer, let me control and zoom out a little bit. I want to use the offset control to determine where the animation is going to start. So now I'm going to place my playhead in the first frame, or frame 0 rather. Basically have it kind of start off the text. And then I'm gonna move my playhead to the end, and using the scale to determine where it's going to end it. So right now it's at the, right now I'm gonna move this up to roughly about 3 or so, and basically have it animate off the text. So now if you play it back, you have this subtle like kind of shine animation to go across the text. And that'll automatically scale to the duration of your clip. So if I go back to the edit page, if I make this longer, that shine will still take up the entire duration of the clip. So now we have a main 3D text. We're gonna go and grab 2 regular text nodes. I'm gonna go up here now and grab a text plus, take the output of it and connect it to merge 1, which create another merge. And this is basically, let's go in the dialog box. I'll just type in a random name. And then I'm gonna go to transform and use the X and Y offset and move it up. And it's basically gonna place it in my composition. So that's where it'll always. So now I'm gonna click on the text 1, hit Control and C, double click in empty space, hit Control or Command V if you're on Mac. Now I'm going to the transform and use the Y offset to move it down to the bottom. So now we need to pack it all up to turn it into a preset for the edit page. This process looks complicated, but it's not that bad. So holding Control or Command on the keyboard, you're gonna select the nodes in the order in which you want to be able to control them on the edit page. So basically, how they lay out or how they show up on the inspector tab is the order in which you want to select them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the 3D text. It's going to be first. Then it's going to be the color, then the bevel. Then I want to control the first text and then the second text. And then the rest of it you just select. Select these lights, background node, and these merge nodes. You basically want everything selected with the exception of the media out. Then right clicking on one of the nodes, go to macro, then create macro. So now we're gonna give it a name. Just gonna call it title 3D, but you can name whatever you want to, and we need to select the controls that we want for the edit page. So the first thing we got selected is the 3D text, which is this node here. So if you double click on it, it'll bring up the controls. I'm gonna go over here and click on the text tab, and basically I want these controls here. So the font style, don't necessarily need the color because we're gonna use the background node for that. But I want the size, the tracking, the line spacing. You can select all this if you want to, but I usually stop at line spacing. So to get to that, within the 3D text node, we need to close down the 3D. Those are just the controls. We don't need those. And then we're going to select style text, font, style. We're going to skip over the color, size, tracking, and line spacing. We also want to be able to reposition our text on the edit page. So we're going to close down this text tab, which is going to bring out the layout tab, which is this next tab here. And from here, we're just going to select center, which is basically the center X and Y. So we're able to move it on the X and Y position on the edit page. I'm gonna close down the image, and if I go into the color tab, I basically want to bring in these controls. So the gradient, the type, the start and end, all this stuff, I want to bring that to the edit page. So to do that, we need to select all these controls pretty much. Type, which is this up here. So if you're on the edit page, you want to change it back to a solid color or any of the other options here, you can do so. So then you select everything else. So top left, you can leave this blank. The blank space you can leave blank, then the top right, then bottom right. And this is because you have one of the gradient types is a 4-corner. So basically these will control the 4 corners. Then we'll go to gradient type, start and end, and also select the gradient. So that way on the edit page, you'll have these controls here, the start and end. You can move them around. You can reselect the gradient and of course change the color and all that stuff. So then we're gonna close the color tab and redo the same thing for the bevel. So close the image and basically reselect all the same controls you selected previously. So now we're done with that. So this is going to control the color for our 3D text. Now we're going to go down to text 1. We're going to close down the image tab. And if I go click on the text tab, basically on all these controls, including the color. So it's basically the same thing that we selected for the 3D text, but this time we're going to select color. So style, style text, font, style, color. You're going to select green, blue, and alpha. Then size, tracking, line spacing. Then once again, close down this tab, go into layout, select center. Then close that tab and go to text 1-1 and repeat. So now we have all the controls that we need. You can create controls for the point light and all this stuff, but we, like I said, going to keep it simple for this for right now. So now I'm going to go over to File, Save as Group. I always save as group, that way you can easily re-access these nodes, and I'll show you what I mean here later. By default, it's gonna bring you to your macro folder. We don't want to save it as a macro, which is basically what happens when you hit control and space within the Fusion tab and bring up all the different tools. You can save it there if you want to, but we want to make it available for the edit page. So I'm gonna click on Fusion, go down to templates, go to edit, titles, and you're gonna save it here. Now, after you hit save, your Davinci Resolve may freeze up for a second, basically just to save that new preset that you just made. But right now, everything seems all good. I will leave this window here open just in case there's some controls that you missed that you want to add in. You can always go back, select those controls, and resave it. So for right now, I'm just gonna move this off to my secondary monitor. Then we're gonna click on the edit page. You're gonna go up to effects, go into titles, and then we're gonna type in title 3D, and there's our title. So now we can drag and drop that to the timeline. So now if you hit play, you'll see the little shine animation. And then if you go into the spectrum tab, just change this to any little thing. So you can change your text. You can go in here and change the different fonts. You'll see the display. You can change the color. Go back up here now, and where it says solid color, that's the black. So you can change that to a different color if you want. If you want to change it to a gradient, you can change the gradient, and then you can create many points that you want to, create a unique gradient style. Just clicking on the gradient bar allows you to add more gradients. Don't mind this, I'm just selecting random stuff. So now your bevel will have a unique color grade, and then under the viewer, if you hit this little drop down here and go to Fusion Overlay, you'll be able to see the gradient controls. So now you can actually grab the gradient controls and change them right here from the edit page. So if I change this color to, I'm just add a little white in here, I guess. And I can push and pull and stretch this color grade as much as I want. This looks absolutely terrible, but you get the idea. And then if you want, you can select gradient type. You can change it to 4 corners, which will open up all this. Or you can change it to solid color and just use one single color. If you didn't miss any controls and everything is good to go, you can go back to that macro editor and then just close it out. Now, one of the perks of this being saved as a group that I mentioned earlier, if I go over here to the inspector tab and click on this Fusion icon, it's gonna take you into Fusion, and this is something I do with pretty much all my presets in case you ever want to make customizations and stuff on your own. Double click this and you get access back to all the nodes. So say for instance, you want to reposition your lights, but double click here and I want to change the lighting, the way it looks and anything like that, I can do that. It only will affect it for that one particular time. So if I change these lights and make the other customizations, on the edit page, I go back to titles, it's not going to save any of that. However, if you do want to, click back on this one and go back to Fusion, you can save the changes. So if you right click on the title, go to settings and go to save as. In this particular situation, you probably have to save it to the desktop. So I'm going to just save it to my desktop for right now. And then what you're going to want to do is go into effects, go to your templates, edit, and titles, and basically want to find that title. So when we click this little search bar here, type in title 3D, and then I'm gonna right click and select show in folder. So this is a title. You're gonna want to copy your name because when you save it to the desktop, it alters the name a little bit. So I'm gonna hit F2, then hit Control C or Command C. Then I'm gonna just open up a secondary tab, go to desktop, find the settings file that you saved, hit F2 and Control or Command V to paste it. Then basically gonna copy and paste. So right click, copy, I'm gonna go back to titles, right click and paste. Should actually, you want to override or replace, hit yes. So now back at the edit page, if I go back into the titles and select it, now it has all the changes that I made. If you go through this process of customizing the titles, if you want to make customization, you cannot undo this group. If you break this group apart, which if you right click and ungroup, it'll mess it all up. So all your controls and stuff will be all messed up. So any changes you make will have to be within the group box. If you enjoyed today's video, remember to hit that like button. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And I'll see you next time.